does not distinguish between reality and imagination.
What is the one thing that I can do to elevate my life?
Everything in life is uncertainty.
We're so arrogant in medicine. We believe that we have medications for everything. Trust me, our knowledge no more than a drop in an ocean.
Putting the needs of the other person above yours.
There's sick patients we've seen get cured not because of what they were taking, but what their mind was making them believe.
Welcome to another episode of the Zenos Roundtables. I'm your host, Ryan Guy, and today we have with us Noah Light. We also have Dr. Maliha and Dr. Waleed. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to be here all the way in Saudi Arabia. And today we are going to be talking about mindset, meaning, and freedom. To start off our questions today, Noah, I wanted to ask you, I see that you work out. I also love to frequent the gym. I kind of want to talk about mindset when you're having a good day. I think there's good days and bad days.
Yes.
How do you navigate your mindset and transition your perspective to benefit you to the best of your abilities?
That's actually an excellent question. Life, it's very easy that life can happen to you. And you start the year with many ideas and you want to change your life. What we have seen with our patients that works the most efficient are three things. Number one, always have a mentor that guides you so that when you go to the left or the right, he brings you back to the middle. Number two is when you say to yourself, I want to change something, don't say I'm going to change it for the rest of my life. Say I'm going to change it just for 30 days and then I'm going to go back to my old life. Then the subconscious mind doesn't say, wow, that's too heavy. 30 days in a lifetime, I can do that. And then suddenly after 30 days, you don't actually go back to where you were. And the third thing is, and in biohacking summits and medical summits, everyone asks me this, so what is the one thing that I can do to elevate my life? And I always tell them it's two things. Number one, who you marry. And number two, who are your friends and people around you? Is being healthy mentally and physically and emotionally a part of their identity, or is it just something they do once in a while? I think these things that most efficient, what we've seen.
And Dr. Maliha, what is a healthy mindset to you?
I always start off with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That's my favorite line. It's my favorite sort of starting point. Everything in life, that is my mindset, that I begin with the name of God. I think that opens doors for me that I don't expect. But for me, the mindset, I think I wish I had earlier in life that I have now, and I would love to teach, my future children as well, is that I have learned in life that I have to be certain or at peace that what's meant for me will not miss me, and what's not meant for me will not come my way, no matter how much I try. So what happens is that I have to do my part, everything together, and if it doesn't work out, that it means it was better for me that it didn't work out. So my stress level is about the working part, working towards it. The outcome is in the hands of the above, so it makes me feel much more at peace with my own self, and it actually brings me at this sort of equilibrium of my mind, body, and spirit. And I think that equilibrium I wish I had when I was a kid. Everything in life is uncertainty. You don't know where you're going to go to school, what grades you're going to get. I was talking to Noah actually the other day that he was talking about mentors. My ultimate mentor has been my grandfather. And I shared the story because we got very inspired talking about it, is that I became a public speaker, a thought leader because of him. I was in 3rd grade and he was visiting us. It was Eid holiday. And I wanted him to stay for 3 more days. And he said to me, I'll only stay if you go to the airport, convince the people at the counter that you want your grandfather to stay 3 more days for Eid. And I said, how will I do that? He said, you can do that. And it was a non-refundable, non-changeable ticket. I go there. I convinced them. But not only did I convince them, they're clapping. They said, we're going to do anything for this little girl. She wants her grandfather to stay. That confidence or that sort of support system is like the spine of your growth. But I think the understanding that things are meant to be and they will fall in place as time goes is sort of that peace that everyone searches for. But the uncertainties are what makes us feel very scared about life. And once that's set, that mindset, then we can really build to our full potential.
Beautiful. And Dr. Waleed, what's your opinion on how to have a healthy mindset?
First of all, we should realize that the brain does not distinguish between reality and imagination. It doesn't. There are actually studies that shows when we tell patients, and it was about milkshake, they gave them a milkshake which is absolutely full of sugar, and they told them this is the healthy choice, and they measured their glucose and insulin. Shockingly, it didn't go up. They gave them a very healthy shake, and they say this is loaded with sugar, but it's there for you to cheat. And actually, the insulin and sugar gone up. So in other words, there's a world inside of you separate from outside. The brain itself creates the reality. So to me, mindset is at age 60, I wish I have this mindset when I was 30 years old. To me, my mentor is my creator and my prophet. Every time I get into an issue, I close my eyes and ask, what is the most pious thing to do? I realize that the one who makes a difference is my creator. So I now imagine myself on a stage for a show, and the curtains will close any moment. I took away all the audience. I have only one audience, that is him. And the beauty, he's asking me for two things only. Have the right intention and do whatever you could in the best way and the most clean way. The results is not for you, not up to you. So in other words, results no longer affect me. If I get so much, I will not be arrogant, not mine anyway. If I don't get it, I don't get frustrated. It's not mine anyway. Now I'm protected from the two evils, arrogance and frustration. That's called stability. That's called mindset. So at this age, I wish I could have this mentality when I was 30 years old. I would probably save myself so much frustration and anger and stress. So today, I just clean my intention and do whatever I could, and I sleep comfortably. That's my mindset.
If I may build on what he's saying, mindset is a muscle. It gets built over time. And actually, it was him. There's someone very close to me who was very sick a while ago. And we weren't sure how he's going to get better. So actually, you walked into the room and said, your mind will make you get better. You have to put your mind to it. So it's like almost like it's a muscle, but it's also a placebo effect because it has to work together. You have to believe it to actually see it happen, because without that belief system that it's going to happen, it doesn't happen.
It's almost like a healthy form of gaslighting yourself.
It's literally, they say, I said if I was to live in a life, it would be a musical with lots of delusions, which actually become real. Yeah. Because I'm believing that they will happen. So they might be a mirage for someone else, but because my belief is there, all my energies will align. Those energies for everyone from different religions, different races, everyone believes in energy. If you put your mind to it, your soul becomes aligned, your heart becomes aligned, your body becomes attuned to it. There's sick patients we've seen get cured not because of what they were taking, but what their mind was making them believe.
Can I build on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because now, I believe we're so arrogant in medicine. We believe that we have medications for everything. Trust me, our knowledge is no more than a drop in an ocean. Our bodies are so miraculous. I believe, I could swear, that there are millions of medications, very powerful, that we're not going to discover until the day of judgment. All we have to do, bring back balance to the body and allow it to self-heal. Now, once you believe in something, your body will produce the right antibiotics, the right hormones, and so forth. That's why the Prophet says, saying, أنا عند ظن عبدي بي. God says, I am up to my servant's expectations of me. If he or she thinks positive, it will be positive. If he or she thinks negative, it will be negative. I believe that has been built physiologically, physiologically built. And God says, so trust in God. The board is trusting God.
That's very beautiful that you say that, because what we've seen, we have 17 scientists that are doing the whole day research on stem cells and peptides. And the more research they do, the more they become a believer in God. And it's very weird. They went from non-believing, from this is impossible, what we're discovering, that is not some creator
Yeah.
has been done. And what you said about the self-fulfilling
Yes,
prophecy,
yes.
that's so important. One of our patients is the world memory champion. And what he have studied more than 400 other world champions. And the difference between number one and number two is one difference. That number one is always more believing in a power above him that is guiding him to success. That was the only difference. They were training the same hours, they were hyper-focused, they had the same resources, only always number one believed there is a force guiding me.
Yeah.
And it can be Buddha, it can be Islam, it doesn't matter which force, because there were different type of forces for each one of them.
Yeah, Noor, you know what? There are so many abundant studies on what we call faith factor. Therefore, I developed a program now to teach in my medical school based on how do I train physicians or students to build on the faith factor. It's not called placebo. That was a misunderstanding. The pharmaceuticals wants you to believe that placebo should be neglected. And as a matter of fact, that placebo is the faith factor. It goes up to 90% in some studies. In Brown University study, antidepressant, the placebo or faith factor got to 90% effectiveness. In other words, I'm now developing a program to teach students how can they harness the internal mechanisms, 4 dimensions, faith in one's upper or power. In myself, I believe in God. Your faith in yourself, you can fight the disease. Your faith in me as a vehicle of healing, that I care and I know. Your faith in the medication and the procedure. We have not trained our students and doctors to harness these internal mechanisms. Now is the time that a physician would come, a healer, and work on those 4 factors. The good news, when AI comes and can come stronger, I will have to depend on my digital AI to do all the intellectual aspect of medicine, differential diagnosis, taking the notes. I will focus on my patient on those 4 factors so I can awaken the being and the motivation so they can go ahead and change the lifestyle. And that's the beauty of AI.
How many times do you hear a mother that was not educated, that cannot read and write, but believed so much in her son or daughter, and they become a world champion in something? And it's
We just
often
heard
that.
I gave
Peter
that
Crone
story of
talk about
Addison.
that last
Story of
night,
Addison,
yes.
I gave it in my
Thomas Edison,
presentation.
exactly. It's a beautiful story. So and you have so many examples of world leaders that came from a challenged place, and it was just the parents or the grandfather or the grandmother that believed in them. So that's why I believe a lot of faith. And if you can transport that faith to your patients, to them, you're gonna heal. You have a very small problem. Often just that word to think, okay, that authority is believing in me. I'm sure then I'm gonna heal. So
I showed you a picture yesterday, remember? The 3rd picture, which is the sentence of death, where a young man, wealthy, was told that he's dying of cancer. And you saw the face of the patient, his eyes full of fear, anxiety, and loss, and how the physician was detached. You see, this person, at that moment, he needs 2 things. Medications have no place. He needs 2 things, hope and meaning. Most clinicians are not trained
100%.
to provide hope
100%.
and meaning.
I remember 12 years ago, there was one a patient that called me. He told me, my mother, they gave her 3 weeks to 6 weeks and she will die. Cancer everywhere. I told him, whatever you do, wait in the hospital. Whatever you do not let the doctors go to her and tell her that until I come to the hospital. I went to the hospital. I told the doctor, we had a big fight with the doctor to not tell them the diagnosis. At the end of the day, we told her, you are very fine. You only need to watch 2 hours of humor movies per day for the next 3 months and this diet. She lived 17 years longer.
By the way, that's why we'll transform the word from a physician or a doctor to a healer, a wise
100%.
doctor, al-hakim.
Yeah.
As for the laughing, in a university of, which one? Specialized in laughing and smiling. Absolutely
Love
right.
therapy.
Watching a scary movie will elevate your stress level, will depress your immunity level, watching something was humorous
Yeah.
does the opposite.
Right.
And that's
So
why
it's the
that's
started-
energies. It's
yeah.
the energies I'm talking about. Like what everyone is saying. I really believe I'm a believer of energy. I believe that you don't choose your journey, it chooses you.
Absolutely.
And how does that happen is all the energies sort of direct the journey to find you.
Absolutely.
And literally you make that intention, you have that support, and you have the conviction, then suddenly things happen. And it's the most empowering and most like it's not even understood, this phenomena, but it actually happens. Everyone asks me, you're a woman of convergence, healthcare, technology, policy, education, business, now economics, now writing policies for countries in G20 presidency on child-centered cities. How do you do it? What do you do? It's all by experiences, personal sort of mindset, seeing someone who's not doing that well in some specific space and they didn't have the opportunity to have that policy written for them. It became embedded in my system that I will find a way to embed that into countries or cities. Those are the ways that these energies find you, and I find that to be so magical. I love the word magical because it's like everything comes together and it's phenomenal.
I'm
But
curious
can
about
I
you,
ask a question
actually.
though? Why we are suffering? Why is it this humanity is suffering now? There's an answer. Why is it?
I was going to ask, actually.
Yeah.
I think, we're very solutions focused right now, which I love that. We're talking a lot about, faith and community and connection, which is such a beautiful thing. But for those who are struggling with some of their beliefs, how do we navigate those conversations?
I tell you,
Okay, go.
you see, I think the fundamental suffering of humanity today is that they understood for you to be happy is you have to focus on yourself and receive.
Yeah.
The best prescription you give to somebody who's suffering, depressed, go help somebody else. God
Yes.
created us in a way that
That is very
when
true.
we
That's
help
very true.
others, it's reciprocal.
Yes.
God says, pay and I'll pay you. Take care of others. The problem, we became so individualized. Even us talking today, each one of us, we care about ourselves, our image, and it's a reality. But if let's say 3 of us today coming in, and somebody in need outside. I'm a doctor. Somebody fell outside, fainted. Which choice do I take?
You go outside.
To skip this one?
Of course.
It's me and a way for me to show, or go in? That's the question. God tests us. My point is, we have to begin to think of our fellow human being. God created this universe in a way. If me, think of you the same as myself, you and I will become not 2, 11. Synergy. There's so much goodness on earth on one condition. We love each other like we love ourselves. The Prophet said, I swear, you will not gonna be a believer until you love your fellow human being what you love yourself.
100%.
Prophet Muhammad
Put
said
the
it,
needs of the
Jesus
other
said it,
above yours.
Moses said
Yeah.
it, and it's
Yeah.
all the same. The problem is we
Yeah.
become so individualized.
I'm curious actually about what you said in the past, because you are in a very high, achievable, high, intense environment, right? And I was very surprised how you can still be very kind, very soft, and when you have a problem, you cannot solve it. You said you can put it apart and it disappear. If it has given me toxic energy, I would love to hear your opinion about how.
These are our fireside discussions.
Yeah,
over
because I
dinner.
think it's very powerful for people, because a lot of people there's so much anxiety, so much depression out there, and I think we can learn a lot from you if you want to share it.
Sure.
first,
I mean,
yeah.
I think if it benefits others, first of all, I think that a lot of us may be in places where we do think that people might be thinking we're there for images. But to tell you frankly, my intention to be here today and to be at this conference on longevity is about servitude and service, right? Because I think everyone's discussing, service can be of different forms. One is service of knowledge. The more we can share, the more people can hear about what longevity is. If you heard about the discussion we had yesterday, the heart of healing in Saudi Arabia, is that longevity has been redefined. People think it was how long you live, but I think how well you live to serve others. And that is the difference. That it brings in everything. So the suffering that you're talking about, there's so many people that really benefit from that type of longevity sort of angle, redefinition of what we're doing, is that you really become a part of that sort of calling where you're serving others. So your suffering decreases because of that. We were talking about some personal experiences and how do we deal with stresses in our life, toxicity in our life. Some people can't. There's energies, right? So of course there are some people that want to drain that energy. What do? You have to have that sort of stoicism in some way or form. I'm a softie, right? I can't help it. I was born like that. I was told I can't be a leader because I smile too much. I
Same.
can't be a leader because I dress really pretty.
I've been told the same exact
And as
thing.
a female, that I'll be interrupted. I said, listen, put that aside. I don't care gender. If anything, I want to just say that some of my biggest bridges in my life have been men by my side. So I don't really distinguish between genders. I don't distinguish between religions. I don't distinguish between, ethnicities. For me, I love humans. I think humanity is contagious.
And I think people feel that also.
I love people.
Yeah.
I love oxygen. I love all these people here. Like I want to get to know every one of you personally.
Yes.
So one thing is when I'm a person like that who's so the empaths of this world, the only way they can survive is if there's some toxicity that's draining them, they disassociate completely with
Can
that.
I just build on this?
Yeah.
Why in the
and-
conference we talk about longevity by itself means what? I'm coming here because I want to live longer. You're absolutely right. You know that there are so many studies, those who dedicated their life to serve others live longer and healthier.
Yeah.
Somebody like Mother Teresa, Abdurrahman al-Sumait, those people dedicate their lives. Helen Keller, blind, deaf. So longevity is not about only follow a certain lifestyle. It's actually the most important thing is your life. Is it worthy for others? Are you serving others? And that's the key. And unless we break this barrier and go beyond our individualism, I want to live longer. I want to take care of myself.
Yeah.
You will always feel that you are devoid.
Yeah.
I believe
That's a
that
very good
humanity
point.
is suffering from spiritual starvation.
Yeah.
I kind of want to bring back the conversation a little bit about Stoicism and how that plays a role
Okay.
in your mental health and your mindset. And Noah, if you want to
I mean,
speak on that.
my Instagram account is called the Stoic Biohacker.
So that was our
uh,
discussion.
I really embrace and I love Stoicism. I think everyone can learn, especially in these challenging times. And I got married a bit older than most people, and I thought, no one teach you about marriage. Like no one teach you about how to. There is no course how to be a great husband. And so I went.
If
and
I may interrupt there,
Yeah.
his wife is the only one he follows on Instagram, and I think that's the best thing. That for me, a lot of
Yeah.
respect. for
Men,
him.
take notes out there.
Everyone take note who's watching this. We all have over 300,000 or whatever thousand followers, but the only one he follows is his wife.
Just to
Yeah.
make sure she's
Bravo.
doing the
And
right
how
thing.
long have you two been together?
we've been now 5 years together.
And so you mentioned in the beginning of the conversation is actually one of the first things that you said about love and
Yes,
how that
yes.
is.
Yeah, so I went and went interviewing many people, even the husband and wife that wrote the book Men Come From Mars and Women Come From Venus, and they told me the number one recipe, because who you marry is really the most important person in your life, on your health, on everything, on your finances, on your mental health. So I thought I'm going to make that decision well. So and I researched, and then I found out that what doctor also he said is putting the needs of the other person above yours. And if you do that, and the other person also learn to do that, suddenly you are constantly putting their needs above yours, and you want to do that. So it's a vicious circle that's going up.
So
And if you do
beautiful.
that also, it's because it's kind of a muscle. You train your biceps, your shoulders also will become bigger. Your triceps also. So it's like if you do that with your family, with your loved one, suddenly you do it with your neighbor. Suddenly you do it with strangers. And it's kind of become as you said, a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I love it because at the end of the day, as doctor says, if you can kill so much with love. And she is a great example. She killed it with softness instead of being hard and going through brute force. She did it with softness.
Isn't that such a crazy concept that you can't be a leader unless you are hard?
You know,
Yeah.
I know this is so fun. I will say it, even, Taylor Swift. I'm not a Swiftie.
This is the second time I've heard about Taylor Swift
I'm
today.
not a Swiftie,
Okay.
but she's running the U.S. economy with her amazing style of singing, and she's the nicest, most down-to-earth person. So, yes, we can be leaders, we can be nice, we can be told we're softies, we can be lovey-dovey, whatever you call us. but that can be a very big strength because I've seen a lot of people that have taken that energy from me, and I thank God for that. I wish I can have more of that opportunity, is I make it contagious, that I want it to be like a ripple effect, like you're saying. You start with your family. You always have to start with immediately, and then it just goes, and then whoever you come across. You touch everyone you come across. You don't touch
100%.
one person, everyone. It's like tag, you're it, and you just go, it's like your turn, and then boom.
And the
And
energy that you
it's like
release
this
to
light.
them.
You
It's
spread
become
that
your
light.
identity,
It's
and it's
it's
not you do.
longevity.
Yeah, how you do one thing is usually how you do everything.
The
Maliha,
inner
right?
light
Yeah.
comes
Maliha,
out.
but Maliha, how can you convince a person to practice altruism? When
So
I give a
it-
lecture,
right.
everybody knows what's selfishness. How, for me, I have the answer. I will hear from you, then
I
I'll
have
tell
an-
you my
I have an
answer.
answer about
How can I
altruism.
convince
I have
somebody
an-
to practice altruism?
So I have an answer. I call it, it's not weak altruism, it's called partial. Because people, we are altruists, we're empaths and whatnot. There was someone who sat with me just this morning in breakfast, the gentleman who came. And he said, how can you be so altruistic, empathic and whatnot? He doesn't believe. He's like, can I be partial altruism? I said, you can love yourself. Loving yourself and loving others in the process is not selfishness. And that's the part that I was saying even yesterday, is that longevity is not vain. This conference is necessary because people need to understand and change or shift that mindset that altruism is you give away everything. You have to survive. You go into an airplane. What's the first thing
Exactly,
you wear? What do
exactly.
they say?
Such
Put
a
the
beautiful
mask
example.
on,
On yourself
then you
first.
can put it on.
Exactly,
So
yes.
for me, if I don't have that
Yeah,
on
yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah.
if I'm not protecting my space,
You-
protecting my space or protecting my energy is not selfishness.
Yeah.
It's selflessness, because then I can protect you, I can
100%.
protect him, I can protect that. So they need to understand that altruism or giving or being empathetic does not mean that you give away everything, that you're left out. You have to be surviving, you have to be healthy, you have to be walking your talk. That's when it happens.
Yes.
Can I build
And
on this?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Build on it.
Get so excited
Beautiful
about it.
answer. Let's build on it. Type.
Passionate
It's a
about my-
beautiful answer.
Yes.
I build on it how I perceive altruism. Every good deed I do, I believe it goes in the hands of God before it goes in the hands of people. And God will pay me back in this life and the life after.
Right.
So the more I practice altruism, it's selfishness, but in the right mindset. If I give, God will give me back in this life and the life after. So in other words, I call it the afterlife selfishness. I am investing in my afterlife
Right.
and investing in the hands of God,
Can I say
who will
something
pay
on
me
that?
back in this life and the life after. So in other words, it's not conflicting
No.
with the way that God created us. We want to do good for ourselves. So unless it makes sense to mind that I am doing even better for myself when I practice altruism, because it goes in the hands of God, He'll pay me back in this life and the life after, it's not going to work, because we are created, we want to do the best for ourselves. So you have to change your mindset. This is actually better for you.
We were discussing, we were having really nice, there was a group of us, first night dinner, we were talking about really philosophical things. There's a word I forgot to mention, it's one of my favorite words, it's hayyin layin, and it's an Arabic word. It means just being very flexible, easygoing, and loving, right? So that energy, so altruism, when they say, so this gentleman I was having breakfast with today, he was having trouble understanding it. When I said, no, you're going to take care of yourself first before you practice it, then he was like calm with it, right? He said, I can't give away everything, and I'm not, you're not giving anything away. And I gave that airplane example. Just like that, the hayyin layin sort of lifestyle is how you are with your family, or I'm with my family, or he's with his family, is being flexible. I think agility, I bring agility into this conversation, is everywhere.
Flexibility and agility, and
It's-
also resilience.
Resilience is a whole sort of horizontal.
Of course.
You know?
And I want to talk to you, Noah, about how you believe resilience really plays a role in mindset.
I mean, the first years of my life, I grew up in a refugee camp. And being in that refugee camp, my parents told us we are in a big adventure. And having that mindset that life is an adventure, it doesn't matter if you're sleeping on the floor or you're sleeping, and it comes from the childhood. I've seen that the best resilience, as she said, it's a muscle. And if you train it as early as possible, and you keep training it by putting yourself in an environment of hormesis. And what is hormesis? Is giving a mini shock to your body. It can be hard training. It can be water fasting. It can be ice bath. It can be longer sessions of saunas. It can be meditate, whatever is your flavor.
So your background is such a testament to resilience.
Yes.
And truly, what an incredible story that you have. I want to talk to you as well about your resilience story and how you have worked through that in your life.
You know, I come from very dedicated parents, mashallah, that have been very supportive of us as being daughters. I'm not the one who was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. We worked hard to be where we are today. So every single element, every single moment of whatever we've achieved has been a responsibility, right? It has not been achieved just, you know, because it came easy. It's been a lot of hard work, perseverance, and resilience. We're 5 girls, so we don't even have brothers, you know. So we've been like sort of each other's backbone, but at the same time, showcasing not to our parents because they believe having sons or daughters doesn't make a difference, but there are some societal norms where you're just a stronger man if you have sons, which is unfortunately or fortunate, whatever you call it, the case. In many ways, in many cultures, not one culture, but across the norm, everywhere you go, it's just generally there. So for me to always having to sort of, I felt like before I had to prove myself, but what I've done is that whole certainty thing that I said I've become at peace, that whatever's meant for me will not miss me, has sort of changed that mindset. So the resilience has become different. Now it's about how can I pass this on and really create that cycle of care that I've come a long way. You know, it wasn't easy. You know, I mashallah, like I literally, for every single place I got admitted to was not through anything but becoming valedictorian the year before, being the top 10, you know, women in the nation. And it was more for me to get that opportunity so I could get to the next place in my life, because I had to work that much harder because I didn't feel privileged in other ways. But then a lot of souls came and supported that, and they've been my umbrellas in the storm to say, but I think those umbrellas in the storms, those mentors really help. But the resilience factor has that's just since I've been growing up to now, it's been a lot of hard work, and people sometimes see you happy or successful, and they don't know the journey. You know,
think
that
everything's
that
perfect.
drawing, you know, the
Yeah.
pyramid drawing where they say you only see the success.
Yeah,
You don't know the tears that went through
iceberg.
it.
Yes.
The
The
iceberg.
iceberg.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
yes,
what I
the
was going to say,
iceberg,
yes.
right? And they don't see the tears that went through. They
Yeah.
don't see the hard work. They don't see the heartbreaks. They don't see
If I- if I-
anything.
It's such
If I
a
may
beautiful
add-
thing to be able to show up and go through everything that you have been in life and still come with
And to
patience.
love even those
Yeah.
people
With
who did break your heart.
patience.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Or to let
Exactly. That's what I wanted to
forgive them.
add.
You don't forgive
It's
them
actually
for yourself.
thank them.
Yeah.
Because one of my mentors told me, not everyone has the privilege to have a hard life.
Yes.
You know, it's a privilege because it builds you. It makes you
Perspective.
totally.
Perspective.
I don't know how you see it with your.
Well, for resilience, I speak in the clinical field, but please, you can extrapolate this, apply it to everything. We have what we call burnout. And how can we create a physician who's resilient? Now, in the past, when you have a burnout, they advise you to go take a vacation. Right. Wrong. The study shows that you have to deal with burnout from your own profession. For physicians, if you go in and focus on the soul of the patient, try to lift their morale, you will get that energy. So today, every single day, they send me in my hospital a name of a patient who have received devastated news. Somebody young who had cancer. Whenever I feel down, I don't go out. I go to that patient, close the door, pull a chair, and sit for half an hour. Connect heart to heart, soul to soul. And I know the language.
That's even
And
self-therapeutic.
I lift the morale of this patient. When I start see the patient break into tears and laugh, I know that the spirit has been lifted. At that moment, the amount of energy I receive
Yeah, it's
is
unbelievable.
phenomenal.
It's-
I go
yeah,
back to my
unbelievable.
office as if I had a vacation.
Yeah.
Why? Because we are all created from one spirit,
Yes.
the
And-
spirit
yeah.
of God.
I think
Yeah.
I
And
think
there's joy in giving.
yeah. Oh my
There's
goodness.
joy in giving.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked
Not
about
said
that
enough.
earlier.
Yeah.
If you're feeling lost or depressed, go help somebody else.
Yes.
See how that works
That's
for
the
you.
best prescription.
And I think talking about Stoicism, talking about mindset from the lens of altruism, what is one takeaway that you would like to leave the audience with?
From a mindset of Stoicism, is what we see most people, they are anxious because their expectations are not met. So if you want to change your expectations for gratitude, I think that is the number one medicine above any drug, peptide, stem cell, is add more moments of gratitude. Because once you add gratitude, you cannot be depressive and have a state of gratitude at the same time. That will be my...
I'm not sure if you guys have heard Benazati speak before, but one thing that he says quite frequently is everyone needs a prescription of vitamin G, and vitamin G
Giving.
is gratitude.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what's one takeaway
So
that you want to
I
leave the
love
audience
that
with?
because gratitude is a very, very important part of life. I think it's service, it's giving, and I keep saying that because it's so contagious, so fulfilling, so amazing, that feeling. And so the gratitude sort of builds on that is gratitude with giving. You create the ultimate sort of Godspeed. You know?
Yes, cocktail for mindset
A
therapy.
good cocktail,
Yes,
actually.
Yeah.
My advice is very clear. At age 60, I finally got it. The whole world is suffering from spiritual starvation. People take care of their bodies. They spend so much time, money, efforts, take care of what they learn, what skills, but they deprive their souls. And what happens to them? They die. And I tell everyone, to my students, my family, death is not sad at all.
Yeah.
Because death is the time where your soul gets freed from the imprisonment of the body. To me, you start your real life, eternity. But what is sad is that the vast majority of people live and die and were never born. You're born not when you get out of the womb of your mother. You're born when you find exactly why God created you.
Yes,
You
two,
find your
two
purpose.
moments,
Each
moments of
one of
birth.
us, each one of
Yeah.
us, God
How
created
many
to
of
do
those?
to do
You have
certain
two lives. The first life
Exactly,
to do
exactly.
certain things
Such a
on
powerful,
earth. God created us for us, each one of us, to do something
I've been
on
born
earth.
many times.
Yes,
And
me too.
He gave you the gifts
More
for that.
resilience.
Once you discover it and work on it, you go into what we call flow state.
Yeah, yeah.
Flow state means work is no longer becomes work, it's an energy. Picasso will not look after 8 hours, say, it's time to rest, or Beethoven.
Yeah.
So if you find why God created you, go into a flow state,
Yeah.
then that's when you begin to live.
Yeah,
You combine
Ryan,
all
I wanted
these
to
two
ask you,
things.
if it's okay, a question,
course.
because you've interviewed so many people in the last days. What was your one thing that you think, wow, or maybe even two or three that you think, I didn't expect to learn it here?
To be honest, I think the underlying tone in every conversation, it is always about the internal rather than the external. Both your internal skill building and your mental state. I think having resilience and having a mindset where you're able to adapt to any situation, I think problem solving is huge, and you can heal yourself when you start working on your inner self.
And you know what's beautiful in that is? Just to build on that, it's the inner light. That's what longevity is. You work on the inner light so you're able to externalize it and pass it on to
then
others.
you can have all the hyperbaric chambers
Exactly,
in your home,
exactly.
all
The
the red
foundation.
light therapy.
The foundation
and
is, yeah.
I think a lot of people are trying to get the quick fix and
100%.
spending so much money when truly if you just sit
Yeah.
time with yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And
true.
one of the research, one of the research that we found out that 3 generations under one rooftop has
I
one
love
of
that
the
also.
longest longevity elements. So we obliged our parents to come and live with us.
Isn't that
And
beautiful?
and these are foundational elements that if most people do them, to be honest, you don't need ice bath. Not too many of them.
That's
So,
why
yeah.
Especially for women
I
either,
prefer
yeah.
the word will span over health span over longevity.
Right.
Will span. You could have a person extremely ill, quadriplegic, blind deaf like Helen Keller, but she have lived until 93 years old a wonderful life. So well span is the term I always emphasize, not longevity. Longevity is sort of individualism, sort of ego. I want to live more. But well span, how your life becomes of value not only to you, to everyone else.
That's beautiful. And thank you so much, all of you, for
Thank
sitting
you.
down and
Thank you for
chatting
having
with
us.
us. It was such a lovely conversation. And thank you all for tuning in. Look out for our next episode next week.
We gain more oxygen through this.
Yes,
Right.
And
all of
energy.
us. Yeah.
Electromagnetic
Thank you.
field.
Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.